Hi everyone, welcome to Tom's Manshed. Before I get into the subject of this video, I'd just like to explain the reason my hair is this colour. For any of you MG owners who watch these videos who have noticed the hair is a slightly different colour, the reason is as lockdown is now easing and the pubs are reopening, I thought that since I'm going to be going back into the pubs, I'm mad on pub quizzes. I go to 4 a week, and just one of them out of the 4 has restarted on a Monday. So I thought, sod it, I'll give all my mates and the regulars who see me in there a bit of a shock and dye my hair a silly colour, and the grandkids as well. I've lost 2.5 stone as well. Not there yet, but it's been going okay. All through lockdown, I've been on diet, lost 2.5 stone. So I thought if I can be really thin and have a different colour hair, nobody will recognise me. So that's the reason I'm like this. I don't see it staying forever. Right, enough of the useless drivel. The subject of this video is the new update, or relatively new update, that MG have brought out for the ZS EV. It's a software update. I think it's called a Comfort 2 update, and it addresses some of the problems that the owners have reported over the 6 months or December, January. First deliveries were made last year of the car, i.e. mainly the bongs, the amount of bongs and the tone of the bongs it makes, the warning bongs, and also the way the horn paps when you do certain things, you get out in the wrong order or you leave your keys in and stuff like that. No temperature display, no permanent display of the range left and stuff like that. So they've addressed quite a lot of the concerns with this update. Now, it isn't a free update in all dealers. It depends on the look of the draw which dealer you got it from. I was lucky enough to pick Chorley MG just because they were the nearest dealer to me. I live near Blackpool in Lancashire, and they're in Chorley in Lancashire, just a 30-mile drive from me. But it so happens that they've turned out one of the best dealers in the country, and they are doing this update free of charge. A lot of dealers are asking £90 or £100 or so. So luckily I got it done. Went down there earlier this week. It only took 2 hours to do. Again, a lot of reported different amounts of time, up to 4 or 5 hours. But it just took 2 hours, and well, we'll see soon what the differences are. So without further ado, we'll start off with the before, and then we'll go into the after. See what you think. Okay, so approaching the car, I'm going to unlock it. We'll be testing all the bongs and the things before the update. So we're in the car now. So using the steering wheel buttons here, from this screen, your current speed screen, as we scroll down, the first setting is your range. I've fully charged mine, ready for the trip to Chorley to get the update done. So there you see the first screen on the first press down is the range to empty. This is the existing one before the update. And then the next one is your current journey, your accumulated total, electrical information, tyre pressures, energy flow, and then back to your current speed. So it's that screen there, I believe, that disappears and is then accessible by the battery button. And in the bottom corner there, bottom left hand corner, you can see 21:09, which is the time of day now. And again, that will become your range after the update. Here is the infotainment screen, and as you can see, all that's displayed is the time. There is no temperature display. Again, that will get added after the update. Another thing that will change evidently is the high beam. And on the car menu, under comfort and convenience, you can see there's two only settings: follow me home and find my car. That is it, there's nothing else. After the update, there will appear a button for turning the auto headlights high beam, the auto high beam on and off. Again, show you that after the update. One thing people have mentioned is the radio volume altering when you turn the ignition on and off, not remembering where it was set at. I'm going to show you that shortly. We're just going to wait now for the obligatory other bong, which comes after a couple of minutes. There it goes, to tell me the lane keep assist system is off, and then that's telling me the rear drive assist is on, and that's usually sort of like the last bongs you hear for a while, unless people have left the seatbelt off and stuff like that, which we'll be checking shortly. So we'll first of all check this volume thing. Now, as you can see, I've got it on Radio 4 now, so hopefully I don't get any copyright issues on YouTube. But we're going to turn it up.
I've got the result
to volume 10.
First. How much?
Okay.
1,000
and
lira?
turn. We'll put it on volume.
Yeah. Lucia,
13.
would you give the customer a receipt?
And I shall turn the ignition off. You turn the ignition on.
May we ask what it is?
Now, because I had it above 6, it has retained that setting of 13.
Oh, it's a small operation. We all work very closely and with complete
If you look there,
discretion.
it was still on 13. But if I turn it down to volume 2, if I turn the ignition off now, and then I turn the ignition back on, you can see now it defaulted back up to position 6. So if you have it below 6 and turn the ignition off, when you return the ignition back on, it reverts back to 6. But if you have it above 6, it stays in that position. So we'll see if that changes in the new update as well. The tone of the bongs will change, and hopefully one of the most annoying things, this feature will change. Now, I went through this in a previous video, but if I now get out of the car, leaving the ignition on as if I'm driving the car, there goes the bongs again because I turned it on and off. So if I leave that on now, I'm getting out of the car, taking my keys with me, but I've left the ignition on. So if I now try to lock it's bonging like mad, so it bongs anyway. If I lock it now, as you hear, it paps once to tell me that I'm trying to lock it, but I haven't turned the ignition off. Which is a good idea, but it's a bit loud again if it happens at home after midnight. So if I get in now, I turn the ignition off, and I get out. It's now locking, no problem. So we'll now show you what happens when the passenger gets out. So I'm now sat in the passenger seat. The ignition is on. I've pressed the foot brake as if I'm going to drive off and turn the ignition off. So we're all in ready mode, ready to drive. So as if I was the driver now, and I turned off the ignition, and my passenger got out before me. So I'm now getting out. So as you can see, I'm now, when I shut this door, if you listen, you get that horrible 3 paps. And that's because I turned the ignition off, and the constant bonging now is because it's saying, please take your key. We'll turn it off by pressing the ignition button. So yes, it constantly bongs if you get out and leave your key in the car. But the worst thing is, as you just saw, if a passenger gets out before you, and that includes the rear seats, again, I'll demo it in the rear seats. Okay, as you can see, I'm sat in the back seat now. So, as if I'm a backseat passenger, the driver has been driving, the keys are there, so the same as in his pocket. If I now turn off the ignition, so the driver has turned off the ignition, and a passenger gets out before he does. Nothing on opening the door. But as I shut this door now, you hear the horrible 3 paps. So hopefully that will be going as well. As you can hear now, I've got my wife sat in the passenger seat without the seatbelt on, and this is how it's bonging. So if you put your seatbelt on now, this is the constant bonging it does if the passenger hasn't got the seatbelt on. She's now put it on and the bonging has stopped. So I believe that, I'll just pass the camera to her now. That's just the one for the lane assist off that always comes on. So I believe that that is going to be altered in the update as well. It's a different sound I've heard. It's like a tingly sound or something. So we shall check that out as well. So that was the before, all the bongs and the horrible tone of the bongs and that before. Let's see what the difference is once the update's been done. So this is arriving at MG Charlie, and that bit there, the Nissan part, is the actual bit where they do the servicing and the update. It's in the garage at the back of that. So I made the mistake and drove all the way down here to the MG part. But if you do visit them, it's at the Nissan part just as you drive in that you need to be. Right, so this is after the update. So we'll turn the ignition on, foot on brake, ignition on. There, you heard the bong. I have noticed sometimes it's a much lower volume. Chime, I would say, not bong this time. It's lower volume than that, the odd time you turn it on, but most of the time it's that. So it's just one much more pleasant chime now than the double bong. And if we look at the display, so there's a display in the middle from pressing OK. So we press OK now. We start off in that mode, and as we go through the menus, the first one is current journey. Now before it was your range, but the range isn't shown now because we don't need to, as I'll show in a second. The next menu, as before, is accumulated total, electrical information, tyre pressures, energy flow, and back to your current speed. But if you look down now in the bottom corner here, you'll see the range is now showing 98 miles left. Before, as you remember, as you saw before, it was the time of the day. But we didn't need that because we had the display on the center screen. And as you can see now on that screen, we've got the the time of day as before, but next to it we've now also got the temperature, the outside temperature, which is 17 degrees C. So that's one of the other improvements. You have still got, of course, that main range display when you flick the battery button here as before. So if you do want it displayed big, that facility is still there, but really you don't need this button now, and it does the same thing as before. It did forward or back. So there is an option there for a 2-position button, or 3-position if you think of its centre position as well, to do something else. But for now it's still as it was, just on battery. Of course you'd still have the word battery printed in front of it anyway, but you don't actually need that because you have got your battery display as shown down in the bottom corner. And again, I'll go through this radio as before. So turn the radio up. It's on a talky bit, so hopefully we should be alright. So if I turn it down now to 0 and turn the ignition off. Now before the update, when you turn the ignition back on, it defaulted back to setting number 6. But as you'll see now, it doesn't. So again, foot on brake, ignition on. 1 chime, and you can see the radio, it has started up where I left it off. So it was on 0. Again, if I leave it
past it, just finally the A16 at Burwell. Between Burwell
if I
and
leave it
Kexby,
at
it's closed
15,
both ways
it's
still.
pretty
They're
loud
still
that now, and
investigating.
turn off. Next time I turn back on.
News. Back with another one for you, half an hour.
Thank you, Bobby. Do you make your bed in the mornings?
So basically it comes back on at whatever it was when you turned it off. So if you had the radio turned down to 0, i.e. off, or very low, below 6, it will now come back on at that setting instead of 6 or higher as it was before. And one of the other changes on the menu, that chirp then, I'm not sure whether I had the button presses turned off before or on. I think I'd turned that chime off, but even when it was on, I'm sure it was a different tone. But I might be mistaken, I don't know, don't quote me on that one, but they may have altered the tone of the button presses if you do have that selected. So on from the car menu, if you press comfort and convenience, we've now got follow me home as before, find my car as before, but we've also now got auto high beam on or off, and it remembers the setting. So I have it turned off because I don't trust it, and I'm quite capable of turning my lights on and off when I see an oncoming car. I've not used it much, I've only used it once. It seemed to work okay, but I have read that it can have a bit of a mind of its own on twisty roads or certain circumstances. So you decide what you want, but you have now got that option in the menu, auto high beam off and on. Okay, right, we'll now do the probably the most annoying thing on the original software. Right, let's see what it does as regards papping its horn when you leave the keys in or you don't leave the keys in, or when passengers get out after the update. Right, the first one we'll start off with is now the ignition is on. I've got the keys in my pocket, and I get out of the car with the keys in my pocket but leaving the ignition. I've forgotten, I've left the ignition on. Now before, when we did this, it bonged like mad all the time. Now the warning comes on there, same, and you get out of the car. If I try to lock it, press the button, it still does the double pip, or one pip. It's because I pressed it twice. So if I try to lock it with the ignition on, it still does that one pip. So that is one thing they haven't stopped. I don't think there's any need for that. It would just not lock and that would tell you it was on. So right, we're back in the car, and this time we'll demo getting out but leaving the keys in it. So I've now turned the ignition off. I've got the keys out of my pocket and I've left them there on the dash. So this is the same as like you turned the ignition off. The keys have fallen out of your pocket without you knowing, on the floor or whatever. And as you get out of the car, again, there's no chimes. But if I try to lock it now, it doesn't pap its horn, but it just refuses to lock. So there's no horn pap. I'm pressing multiple times, but it is not papping its horn. So really, that's all it needed on the other bit I showed you. If you leave the ignition on and the keys are in your pocket and you try to lock it, it will pap the horn to tell you the ignition is on. But really all it needed to do was refuse to lock, and then you'd realise something was wrong and you'd think, all right, I've left the ignition on. But at least it doesn't pap now. If you've left the keys in, it just refuses to lock, which is exactly what my previous car did, the Focus, and that is fine. So as you can see, I'm now sat in the passenger compartment. The ignition is on, so the car is in ready mode. And the driver has come to a stop, turns off the ignition, and before, if the passenger got out before him with the ignition off, including the rear seat passengers, the alarm, the horn, triple pap went off. Let's see if it does it now. Silence, which is great. So no triple horn pap, and I can confirm it does do that with the rear passengers as well. I've not filmed that, but I've tried it, and yeah, it doesn't go off with the rear passenger as well. So that's one of the major things that was wrong with it, now sorted. Right, we're sat in the car ready for our weekly shopping trip to Lidl, the highlight of our week. So I've got the ignition on, I'm about to set off, I've got my seatbelt on, but my wife hasn't. The seatbelt warning must be sort of linked to movement as well as just sat there, because if you just sit up the drive with the ignition on, with the passenger in with no seatbelt on, no warning comes up. But as you'll see shortly, the tone has changed from when I last showed it you before the update, and also it seems to start chiming a bit quicker than before. So I'll just pass the camera to my wife while I set off, and hopefully you'll see it start, like I say, a bit quicker and the different sound. As you can hear, it started a lot quicker than it used to start, but it sounds a lot nicer. So I'll just stop here at the end of the road, take the camera back. Right, plug your seatbelt in. And as you see, we're back moving now, and the alarm has gone off. So there you have it. I think I've covered most of the points. There may be some things that have changed in this update that I'm not aware of, but I think they're the main points. I don't use, or haven't had chance really to use yet, MG Pilot. I haven't been on any journeys. You probably noticed I've only done less than 800 miles since I got the car in February. I don't do many miles anyway, but it's been even less during the current times. But I haven't used MG Pilot properly yet, apart from trying it out for a couple of minutes. So I'm not totally familiar with that and the differences. There is a video online by Mike Proctor who does go into some of the differences that he's found in MG Pilot, as he uses it obviously a lot more than me. But I think I covered most of the main sort of points, and as you can see, it is a lot better. The tone is nicer, the frequency of the things, the amount of times the bongs go off has reduced vastly, and we've got the temperature gauge and the permanent display of your miles left in range. So I hope that's been of some use, and yes, I would recommend it, particularly if it's free of charge like mine was. But you make the decision whether it's worth it or not if yours is chargeable. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see any more, I'll keep making these videos mainly on sort of tool and gadget reviews, but quite a few like this on the MG as subjects come up that I can do. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, please do by clicking the picture of the little shed here. And I'll catch you for the next review very soon. Thanks for watching.